Okay, so hi everybody and welcome to today's webinar, Dashboard Best Practices by Yellowfin. My name's John Ryan, I'm Yellowfin's Director of Product Marketing, and in today's webinar we're going to be covering some of the general best practices for planning and building dashboards to roll out to your users. So if you do have any questions throughout this webinar, then there is a question panel for you to add any of the questions, and we'll be able to get to all of those at the end of the session. So why should you listen to us about dashboards? Well, as our CEO Glenn Raby says, people come to Yellowfin's for dashboards. It's that simple. Yellowfin is all about offering highly interactive, collaborative and securely governed dashboards that business users love. And to back up those claims, we do have the BI survey, which is the largest BI customer feedback survey in the world. And that's rated Yellowfin as the leading dashboard vendor for innovation, the leading dashboard vendor for cloud BI by a long margin, the leading dashboard vendor for mobile BI, as well as the leading dashboard vendor for price to value, which we certainly think is the most important metric. And of course, this is not a fluke. Yellowfin has scored these ratings by customers now for the last 3 years in a row, and this is just an example of dashboards with innovation. So today's webinar is all about dashboards. So what are dashboards all about? Well, firstly, the term dashboard in a BI sense is really derived from cars. So if you're old enough to remember the very early days of BI, so before dashboards were around, it was very report-centric. So a typical user would need to access a list of reports and then open up each report individually to find the data that they were interested in. And really with the invention of BI dashboards, people were able to see a much more holistic view of how the business was performing and the direction that the business was going in. So what makes a great dashboard? Well, if we're sticking with the car metaphor, you really need to think about what's appropriate for the dashboard consumers. So what is it that they need to know to be able to work out how it's designed? So in this car dashboard example that you see here, we can see that speed and revolutions are the two most important metrics because that's what you're going to be checking most frequently while you're driving. There are a couple of other metrics there, but speed and revolutions are the main focus of the dashboard. So they've got bigger gauges there. It's much larger, it's in the center, while fuel and temperature, they're secondary, so they're off to the side. And this makes perfect sense because that's actually what the drivers most want. And most importantly, drivers actually use them, so we certainly hope. So it's really that's really what this webinar is all about. We want to help you make awesome dashboards that people will use and love. So why build a dashboard in the first place? Well, fundamentally, it's all about helping people do a better job. So they're certainly much easier than opening a dozen reports individually. They can give you that summarized view of the world, and it's a very easy way for people to be able to consume data and find the answers to data-driven questions. Now, what we do find is that when it comes to business intelligence, there's fundamentally two different types of users that we see. So those users are the data analysts who really, what they do is they analyze data, they create content and insights for people within the organization. And really, these people work with data to solve problems, and they're primarily concerned with exploration of information and finding new insights. So for these particular users, the reality is that the dashboard isn't as critical as it is for the other type of user, which is the business user or the BI consumer. So what these people want is data to help them do a better job. And they're typically decision makers and people who just want to make an informed decision. But what they don't want to have to do is create that insight themselves from scratch. They prefer to work with pre-built dashboards. It lets them easily see what's important and interact and ask questions of the data through the dashboard itself. So I've never actually met a sales director who really wanted to create their own reports from scratch. They needed the information, but that's what analysts do. So you've got two different user groups. They require different approaches. And for the BI end user or the consumer, the best approach is the dashboard. So in the second half of last year, TDWI, the Data Warehouse Institute, did a survey for business-driven BI and analytics. And as you can see from this report here, dashboards are by far and away the most important thing for the business-driven BI. And creating content itself, or data discovery, which is gets marketed very heavily, it's not even in the top 5 for those business users. So when thinking about dashboards, you really need to think about what it is that the business user is really trying to achieve. And really, you need to think about how the data is going to be used within the organisation. So why will it be used? Who's going to be using it? What exactly are they trying to achieve? And really, most importantly, can people act on the data that is produced from these dashboards? And is it really going to help them do a better job? So fundamentally, what we're trying to do is not to build this. So this is an example of a terrible dashboard. What we want to do is help you make fantastic, easy to consume, highly relevant dashboard tabs that actually get used. And just to clarify, today's webinar is focused on dashboards only. So we don't want to be covering, we won't be covering, best practices for data visualization in today's session. That is an entirely different topic unto itself, and we're planning on holding a different webinar later in the year just to cover that specific topic. But today's webinar is just going to focus on constructing the dashboards themselves. So kicking off our best practices, dashboard best practice number 1, which is to always design your dashboard tab for a specific purpose or a specific business purpose. This is really important, and it's actually usually one of the steps that most people most often skip. You can't just put anything on a dashboard, and you can't build a dashboard that is going to cater to everybody's needs. So a car's dashboard is designed specifically for the driver. So really, who are you building your dashboards for? Is it the executive team who want to make strategic decisions, or is it people in finance or sales? And what function within those areas do we need? So perhaps for marketing, it might be to monitor campaign performance, or perhaps to monitor how the brand is going, or monitor social media interactions. So the point here is really that every dashboard should have a specific purpose. Project management dashboards look completely different from call center dashboards or healthcare dashboards, and that's because they exist for completely different purposes. So you really need to be asking yourself, who is your user? What can we do to help them do their job better? And what type of data are they going to need? Can the different reports actually help those users? And as well as how often will the users need to check this dashboard? So, for example, within retail, if you're a person on the salesperson on the shop floor, you want those people spending as little time interacting with the dashboards as possible, because time spent analysing dashboards is time not spent selling. So you really need to think about who your users are and what their needs are. And ultimately, can they act on the data? That's what it's all about. So the reality is you are going to need different dashboards for different types of use cases. And the best way to go about it is to really focus on a single subject matter per tab. So you don't need to include all of the metrics on a single tab. You don't want your dashboard looking something like this. So if there is a case where you have some reports that you think are maybe relevant to your subject area but don't quite fit in the tab, then certainly, at least with Yellowfin, you can always add them as associated reports so that they appear with a hyperlink on the side for people to access those reports if they're interested in. But you do really want to focus on that one subject area per tab. So how will your dashboards be used? Well, when you know your purpose, your audience, and you decided upon the subject area where you want to focus on, next is really working out, how. This is the how it will be used. What's the interaction going to be like? And there's, I guess, fundamentally 3 different types of dashboard use cases. So there's strategic dashboards. So strategic dashboards are really all about giving people like executive teams a very high-level view of the business so that they can see and track if everything's okay. So they typically use lots of key performance indicators or KPIs to monitor the high-level health of the organisation in different areas. And they're generally used for more long-term decisions. And because they're looking at historical snapshots, such as what's happened last week or last month or last year, you certainly don't need real-time data in most cases. So the next type of dashboard is an analytical dashboard. So these are used to help people understand trends and understand why things are happening. So to do this, analytical dashboards, they need to be way more interactive. So users can slice and dice the data, they can make different comparisons, they can see how things have changed over time. And really, it's all about the analytical user being able to look at the data in every which way to find the answers that they need. So understanding is really the goal of an analytical dashboard, and they tend to have more of a medium-term decision horizon. And then there's also operational dashboards, which are used to monitor what's happening now or most recently. And it's all about, operational dashboards are about helping people make short-term, data-assisted, informed decisions. So operational dashboards usually run off live data or production databases or data that's been refreshed more recently. And this is useful because let's just say that you're a manager working in a retail store. You're interested in up-to-the-minute stock inventory so that you know what's been ordered, what should be delivered. And the reason why you're interested in up-to-the-minute is because this is going to help you know how you need to act. So therefore, operational dashboards, functionality such as alerts become really helpful, really useful. And that's because the dashboard can then actually warn you if the data goes above or below different thresholds that you set. So you can use it to send you intelligence as things happen. Now, a few other things about operational dashboards. They do usually contain less information than you would find on strategic or analytical dashboards. And this is a good thing. So if we go back to that car dashboard analogy, so car dashboard is an operational dashboard. And you don't want to overwhelm your driver with lots and lots and lots of information, or have your driver analysing which part of their drive is the least fuel efficient while they're driving. We want them focusing on the road. However, they do need to know, say for example, when the tank is running near empty, or if they've gone well over the speed limit. And the red alerts or the beeping if they go over the speed limit certainly help them drive better. So just to summarise this slide, you really want to think about what types of dashboards your users are going to need to do their job better. Is it strategic, is it analytical, or is it operational? So once you know what your users really need, you have a focused topic, you're ready to start planning your dashboard. So this is an example of a client visualising how a dashboard might look using the traditional pen and paper method. So you certainly don't have to use pen and paper, but there is definitely nothing wrong with it. And that's because the planning phase is just absolutely critical to deciding the most important what and where. So what information do I need? What is the logical order that the users are going to want to have their questions answered? Where should I place these reports in terms of the layout? Is it going to go in the top right-hand corner, in the middle, on the side? What type of charts am I going to want to have on this dashboard tab? So we cannot stress enough how important this step is, and really how much time and effort could have been saved and how many dashboards could have been so much better if the creators did a draft design first and simply showed that mock-up to the end users to check if it's actually what they needed. And finally, the last point under best practice number 1, purpose, is you really need to make sure that you actually have the data that you need to produce these dashboards. So, for example, some people get really excited about Yellowfin's mapping capabilities, but unless you've actually have the data ready to support that visualization, then there's not much you can do about it. So another consideration is, will your dashboard need to look at data from different data sources? So not all business intelligence tools allow you to build a dashboard where you have different reports pulling from different data sources. So many will restrict a dashboard to just reports from a single data source or a single workbook. And if you're trying to build a strategic dashboard which is giving you KPIs from all your different areas of the business, then that's going to be a bit of a problem. So there are workarounds where you can build complex data warehousing projects to get around that. But certainly if you can just get that on the dashboard through the BI tool, that's a big benefit. So next one there is your data trusted? So we can't underestimate enough how important it is to have accurate data. It's absolutely critical to a successful BI project. So you need to ensure high data consistency and high data quality, or your users are going to stop trusting the data and then they're going to stop using your dashboards. So there's absolutely no amount of fancy design work that is going to be able to compensate for poor quality data. And if you are building dashboards for subject matter experts who live what that dashboard should be representing, then they're going to get suspicious very quickly if the data on the dashboard does not represent the reality that they see. So trust can be lost very quickly. It's hard to regain. So you really need to think about what governance measures you can put in to ensure the data has integrity and it is trusted by the users. And then finally, you really need to think about security too. How sensitive is the data that you're showing in your dashboards? How secure does it need to be? So for example, you probably shouldn't be sharing your payroll data dashboard with every employee. So what security do you need for different dashboards? And all of these things, they're really important, something that you're going to need to consider at the very start of the dashboard building experience. Okay, so best practice number 2 is summarize. So provide an overall, an overview of the organisation, of an organisational area. So to start with, you don't want to overwhelm your users with lots and lots of data. So this goes back to the point we mentioned earlier about focusing on a single subject area per tab. Users don't want to start by seeing everything at once. What else can you do not to overwhelm users? Well, ideally your dashboard should start with the big picture, that global view. And this allows the users to be able to very quickly understand what they're looking at and what's happening. And then also allow your users then to be able to drill down or zoom into more detail. So going from summary to detail once they understand that big picture. So doing it this way supports both inductive and deductive thinking, and it really helps your users, particularly your non-technical users, to be able to discover the answers to their questions a lot faster and make better decisions. And now, as part of this, we do believe that you should display your most important metrics with key performance indicators or KPIs. So if your audience is time-poor executives who just want a quick bird's eye view or a glance at the overall health of the company, then KPIs are the way to go. So I'll just show you a quick example of what we mean here. So I'm just going to log on to our Yellowfin dashboard. And this is a live dashboard of what you were seeing just before. So first of all, we can see our most important metrics. So in this top example, which is total invoice amount, it's very easy to consume and understand straight away because it's just using a big number chart for the user. That's the main thing that they're wanting to see when they come to this dashboard. We also have the list of the most important KPIs for this user, so they're able to very quickly see and understand how the different key metrics are performing. So they can see the trends, the actuals, the targets, as well as the variance straight away. And then, if they do need to drill down on any of this, so for example, if they do want to find out more about why profit's down, they can just click on that to drill into more detail, and now they can see the breakdown by month, and that it started okay at the end and start of the year, but it's dropped significantly from there. So they've got the ability to see that high level, but then drill down into more detail. KPIs are the best way to display your most important metrics that the users do want to know. So best practice number 3 is all about the layout and how to really guide, where you should really be placing, both the position and the size of your reports. So first up, the basics. So people consume dashboards reading left to right and top to bottom. So there's a lot of scientific research that backs that up. So it makes a lot of sense that you add your most important reports, so the reports that the users want to see first, in the top right-hand corner of your dashboards. And then the reports that are least used, they should be there at the bottom right corners. So we've said this before, but to build really awesome dashboards, you need to get the order of your reports in this right order that your users are going to want to ask those questions. And that should really be dictating how your dashboard should be arranged. So once you have the dashboard order correct, the next step is spacing and size. So each report should be placed and sized according to its importance in the tab. The more important the report, generally the more space you should allocate to that report. The aim is to make it super easy for the users to be able to find what they're looking for and really draw the user's eye to that specific report. Now there are a few other considerations at this point. So you do need to size reports appropriately. So it's not a good idea to squash a report that's less important to the point where it's going to lose its detail. So otherwise, really that report's serving no purpose at all. So make sure that you do allow the appropriate space for the type of report you're using. And a few additional tips is if you do have reports that are related, it's best to keep those reports together on your dashboard. So for example, a gender report and a demographic report both describe who your customer is. So if you're going to place them on a dashboard, it's better if you keep those two together. It makes sense. And also, it's really important to remember that long dashboard tabs are actually less effective. And even more so if you don't get the order that people want to read your reports in the correct order. Because in that case, the user needs to scroll up and down the page multiple times to get the answers that they need. So don't go and put 20 reports on a tab. Your users, are not going to want to look at every report every time, but they do want to know what is most important and be able to get to those other reports as they go along. Plus, when you do have lots of reports on a dashboard, it can have an impact on performance. So users prefer fast, snappy dashboards a lot better than slow ones. And again, if you do feel that you must include lots and lots of information, then think about using associated report links to help users get to that information, or use sub-tabs to break up the dashboards into sub-dashboards and help users that way. So let's put what we've just said into action. So here we have an example that you can see there on the left. So on this dashboard we have 5 different reports to analyse customer demographics. So since I'm the user in this example, my main question is what's our demographic spread by age and amount? Next thing I'm interested in is really, the age and the gender the yearly breakdown and the country. And then finally the age and the gender come next in terms of my priorities. So I have all of these reports on this dashboard. However, the order of the dashboard is wrong. It's not the order that I would like those questions answered. So in this case, we have our map as the top dashboard. And this map is also, it's not sized correctly. So it's a world map, but we're wasting a lot of space over here. It's just white space, not doing anything. Now the report that I'm most interested in, which is our bubble chart, it's really squished, so it's very hard for me to look at that and understand what's going on. Same with our campaign effectiveness. Again, very, very squished. It's hard to tell what some of these metrics are. And our sales agency over time, again, very squished. I can't really understand look at that and instantly understand what's happening there. So this is our before shot. So our after shot that we have, what you can see here, this is using the exact same space that we had before with the exact same reports. However, in this example, the reports are in the same logical order that I actually wanted those questions answered. So our bubble charts have now been stretched across as well, so it's much clearer for me to understand those. We haven't actually lost any detail on our map. We've just got rid of that white space, and that's meant that we're able to stretch out our bar chart by year, as well as stretch out our line chart as well. So we've freed up real estate space. So this is a much better dashboard tab using the exact same components that we started with. So layout is important. So really take the time to think that how you're going to plan your layout through properly. Okay, so best practice number 4 is all about clarity. So making your dashboard really easy for users to understand. So to start with, you want to give your users very clear titles and descriptions of both your dashboards and your reports. So if you look at this report here, what does it represent? Well, you can't tell straight away because there's no title or description. And even if I hover over the chart, and I can see it's running total by month, I still don't know what this report means. So the point here is that if somebody has never seen your particular dashboard before, you don't want them to have to wonder what is the purpose of this dashboard, or the purpose of these reports. So be very specific, not just with the names of the dashboards and the reports, but also take advantage of description fields as well. So leave absolutely no doubt for your users what the point of these reports and dashboards is. So just to give you an example of this, so within Yellowfin, you can go and look at the information on any of the reports. So we can go look at the information specifically of this report to find those descriptors. And we can also do that at a dashboard level as well. So if I just click on the dashboard and go to our info tab, you can see here we have a full description of exactly what this dashboard's for. We understand who the audience should be, and we also have descriptions of each of our reports that are contained within the dashboard as well. So the end user, they can go to any dashboard and very quickly understand exactly why this dashboard exists. And one of the other things I really love about Yellowfin is we also include user help as well. So this can be set up by an administrator so that the first time anyone sees a dashboard, this turns on automatically. But you can see here, if I was to come to this dashboard for the first time, I would see that description that we just talked about. We can also see who created the dashboard. That can be very useful. Who uses the dashboard. And there's different types of helps as well, and they're color-coded. So if the help comes up as blue, then it's content help that's telling you what is in the dashboard. But there's also functional help too. So again, a user who's new to a dashboard might not know how to interact with this dashboard. And there's lots of different interactions that we have, which we'll be showing you shortly. So you do need to explain that to the dashboard users. So next up is consistency. So to improve clarity, you want to make sure that you have consistency throughout all of your dashboards. And if you do have multiple people building reports within your organization, then you really want to make sure that you're using consistent naming conventions. So, for example, within an organization, you might have some people describe invoices as sales and other people describe it as revenue when they're all the same thing. So it's important to be consistent and only use one of those names rather than making people wonder if potentially there is a difference. Likewise, with calculations, if you need to make sure that your metrics that have calculations are all using the exact same calculations within all of your dashboards. If you fail to do this, then your users are actually going to be interpreting their dashboards incorrectly. So, for example, there are a number of different ways that you could calculate gross profit margin percentage. And if you can lock that down to just one, then the user's going to know exactly what it means, exactly how it's calculated, and you're making it just clear and consistent for all of the users. And then finally, there's using consistent colors too. So this can really help users form associations with the data and make it more easy for them to absorb what the data means. So one of the great things about Yellowfin is that we do have a metadata layer, which we call views. And this allows an admin to be able to lock down all of the names and the metrics and the metric colors to be able to ensure consistency within the application. So best practice number 5 is to direct your users' attention to what is important. So one way to do that is with conditional formatting and just formatting in general. So what we could see here is if this was just a pure tabular table, you would see a whole lot of different numbers, and it will take you a little while to understand what those numbers mean. So you're going to need to compare a lot of the numbers together to find out which one's actually the biggest, which one's the smallest. So in this example, we're using conditional formatting, and we're still actually using a table here. However, the table's been formatted with things such as country flags, which are faster for users to be able to recognize and reading text. We have text too. And we're also using a number of different conditional formatting options, which are, again, a lot easier to understand. So if I am a user and I do really care about the numbers, then you can hover over to find out exactly what the numbers are still. But what most people are really interested in is the trend. And the best way to highlight trends in this way is to use things such as colors and icons. So if we're using traffic lights, so for profit here, this is going to tell us whether or not it's good or bad. Under cost, we're using both colors and arrows to be able to tell us, is the cost going up or down, and whether or not that's good or bad. And we can also use signals as well. So this is which countries rated best, and we can see here which ones are doing well and which ones are not performing. So with conditional formatting, what it means is that at a glance we can very quickly draw attention to what's good, what's bad, and help users understand what the data really means faster. So, Italy's profitable, cost is going up, ratings average. Japan's not profitable, costs are stable, and but the rating is very good there. So it's very fast for users to understand. And remember, if you are going to use colors, to use colors appropriately. So red means bad or negative, green generally means good or positive. And if you are going to deviate from the norm, then you want to include how that works in a legend on the chart or the dashboard. Okay, so another way to draw attention is to use annotations and reference lines. So annotations are, descriptive information about the data created by users to explain either what something is or why something might be happening that's affected a change in the data. So in this example, we have an annotation in the middle, that big block of blue, and that's telling us, it really stands out, and it's telling us that we had a new system installed in the first half of 2009. So with Yellowfin, you can have annotations displaying either on the chart, or you can have it just with the little flag where you can hover over and see more detailed descriptors and also who wrote the annotation. And really what's great about Yellowfin annotations is that they're actually connected to the data. So as the data changes, or perhaps you want to change, in this example we could change our date range, then the annotation's actually going to move with the data that you're displaying. So it's not static text or being hard-coded in there. So just a few recommendations if you are going to use annotations. We do recommend that you use them sparingly. Annotations do a great job of drawing the eye and getting users' attention. And there is also research that shows that people tend to spend more time, so dwelling more time on reports that actually have annotations versus reports that don't, which goes to show just how important that human context is. But please don't go overboard and have 50 different annotations on the one report or on the dashboard, because it becomes overwhelming for the user and starts to become more difficult for them to consume. So another way to draw attention as well, which you can see here, we have a reference line in orange, which is going horizontally there. And reference lines are, a great way of bringing attention to things such as targets. So, is it good if we go over, or maybe it's bad if we go over? And this really helps the user understand how the business is really traveling. Okay, so best practice number 6 is to make it interactive and to provide interactive elements that are going to get your users involved. So there's lots of different ways that you can interact with dashboards, but I guess there was once a time where static dashboards were okay, but today people expect that interaction. So they expect being able to have tooltips or drilling down or different types of ways there. So it's much easier to explain really what these mean. So I'm going to go back to our dashboard and just show you some examples. So we're going to start by showing you some different types of drills. So the first example of drill, which is a very traditional method, is just a standard drill down. So this is where you have a setup hierarchy. So in this case we have region drilling down to country, drilling down to camp location. So we can look at Europe and we can drill down, and we only have European countries here. And we can drill down then into a specific country and get down to the camp level. So these are hierarchical. They'll be defined somewhere in the data. And user is able to use breadcrumbs to go up and down to find the information that they want. So another example of drill, this is one that's, not many vendors do this. Yellowfin's one of the few that offers this. It's the ability to be able to drill anywhere from a report. So in this case, I can click on Europe. We're looking at revenue versus profit. And I might want to just focus in on Europe by year. And we can see now that 2013 was our biggest year, and we can continue to drill down here. So we might want to look at this by gender, or continue to break it down further with just males and booking method. So you can see it's very, very easy for a non-technical user to be able to slice this and really get down to the exact information that they're looking for. So they're starting at the high level and they're drilling down to exactly what it is that they're looking for without needing that hierarchy there in the first place. And then as well, you can also, for any of these reports, you can switch to the tabular mode. So sometimes this is good to do it that way. Some users prefer it. And of course, we can continue to do our drill down from here if we like. So it's very, very easy for the end users. So that's really the drill downs. We're going to now look at different types of drill throughs. So here we have a report where we have a breakdown by year and campaign region. And really what drill throughs do is they pass the filters that you're clicking on through to the more granular level detail, or they can also pass it through to a completely different report just with those filters. So if I want to just look at Europe in 2015, this is going to pass me through. We can now see that we have all of the granular detail for all of our camps in Europe in 2015. We have our conditional formatting, so we can see which camps have performed good and bad. We've even got an additional chart here on the side. And we're able to change our filters if need be from here as well, or go back to the dashboard using the breadcrumbs. So that's an example of drill through. It's very, very common use case, certainly for Yellowfin customers. Drill through is very heavily used generally. Another example of that as well, you can have drill through with a pop-up so that you don't have to actually leave the dashboard. So in this case, we've set up a drill through pop-up with a couple of different reports. So we can just look at Europe with performance flags, or we can look at Europe just for revenue detail report. So it's an example of a drill through with a pop-up. So all of these were just drill options, and really what it's all about, why you'd use a drill, is if you want to help a user navigate from that high-level global view to more specific granular level data. Now there's more interactions than just drills. So on our analysis tab, we have a dashboard here where all of our reports are linked. So we're going to show you some other types of interactions. So the first is brushing, where we can go and select some of our data and just choose to keep that data only. And there's also analytic filters as well. So analytic filters work by, this is going to apply as well to all of the dashboards. All we need to do is select which filters we're most interested in. So we can choose a couple of years of data, and we can choose our different demographics as well. And just while we're on this, it's important to note here, because when we're talking about consistency of colours, you can see that we've still got all of the same colours. So when we have luxury here, it's green. We've got luxury still green. It's passed through on all of the accounts, so it's very consistent for the end user. And even on the filters, we keep those colours with little icons as well, just to make it that little bit easier. So it's all about making it easy for your end users. But now we've selected our filters, we can click on those, and our dashboard's going to go and generate based specifically on those filters for all 4 reports. So this is an example. In fact, it's actually more than 4 reports. So mentioned before that Yellowfin has what's called sub-tabs. So in this report, we're looking specifically at the topic of athletes. However, if we wanted to change our report to agency, we have another 4 reports here. And we can go across to marketing as well. And what happens with sub-tabs is when you've set up your analytic filters, the results that are here will pass through to your other filters. So this is a great way of not needing to put 20 different reports onto that single dashboard, and really being able to better break down for one dashboard per subject matter. So that's just an example there of the analytic filters. Next is series selection. So series selection allows your users to be able to switch from different metrics. So right now our entire dashboard is focusing on invoice amount, which is all blue, and we can see a different breakdown for performance and demographic region and demographic performance. And if we change across our series to cost, all of our reports are going to update. So it's just a very easy way for users to be able to really interact with the data and get the answers they need. And there's also time sliders as well, which is another way for users to be able to control what people see there on the dashboard. As well as you can have the unit selection too. So we can look at this by day or by month or quarter or year. So it lets the users really define what it is that they want to see. And then finally, our last interaction that we'll show here focuses on maps. Yellowfin has fantastic capabilities around mapping. So there is the traditional Google map, which people ask about, but we also have our own base layers, and we can do some really interactive things here. So what do people want to do with maps? Well, they do want to zoom. In some cases, they want to overlay additional data onto their maps. And they might want to be able to switch their metrics as well. So you can see, again, lots of different types of interactions. So a chart can have more than one type of interaction, and really which interaction you choose to use really depends on the questions that your users are going to want to ask from the dashboard that you build. And that's really why best practice number 1, which is understanding the purpose, is just so important. So best practice number 7, which is our last best practice for today, is to really think about how the data in your organisation from your dashboards is going to be able to get shared. And this is important because data is more valuable when it gets shared. When you have lots of people using the data and they're collaborating with it, it's just a lot more value for your organisation. So we hear, a lot of talk about data being the new oil. At Yellowfin, we disagree. Oil is a finite resource that people fight wars over. Data, on the other hand, is more like renewable energy. It doesn't cost anything extra to give it to other people, and you can let it shine and really watch your business grow. So to start with, you want your data to be available on any platform and on any device. So in other words, you want to be able to create a dashboard once and then let your users be able to consume it anywhere. It might be Linux, Mac, PC, or mobile, or tablet, whatever it is, and have that Yellowfin experience, or that dashboard experience, really tailored for your specific device. And there's actually more to data-driven decisions than just dashboards. It's not the be-all and end-all. So dashboards are a fantastic platform for business users to be able to go in and find out the information they need to make decisions. But if you really want to build a data-driven culture in your organisation, then you need to think about how else the data can be used to make a difference, to make change. So in some cases, it might be that you need to export the data or the dashboards. In other cases, it might be that you need to print the dashboards, because that's how people within the organisation are still consuming the information. Another way is that you might want to set up broadcasts which distribute reports either periodically, so say you have your strategic dashboard sent every Monday, or if it's an operational dashboard, you might want to set it up so that you have automatic alerts telling the users if they go above or below a certain threshold. Some other examples, you might want to embed your dashboard into a web page or an intranet. And there's also actually taking this data into meetings with you as well. So Yellowfin is what we're actually using today is Yellowfin Storyboard. So this is our presentation layer. And you can see I've been using some interactive reports through this presentation. But what it means is that you can take the entire data set with you to a meeting and be able to, a lot of decisions actually happen at that meeting level. So rather than the outcome of the meeting being people making uninformed decisions or say go get me more data, you can take all of that with you to the meeting. And then finally, there's collaboration too. So being able to help your organisation have discussions around the data. So not just reports where people make comments in the reports, but actually have discussions around entire dashboards or multiple reports and multiple dashboards and being able to make decisions there. So all of these things Yellowfin does really well. It's not the focus of today's session, so we don't have time to show them. But remember that data is more valuable when shared, and we really want you to make sure that you're getting the most value out of your dashboards. So that brings us to the end of our best practice for dashboard webinar. So here is a recap of the key points that we've discussed today. I do want to point out that we did leave out best practice data visualization off this list on purpose. It's an entire topic all to its own, and we are planning on running a webinar on that topic later in the year. But we certainly do hope that you found today's webinar useful, and that you can go off and apply these principles to the dashboards that you build yourself. So if you are an existing customer, we certainly want to do everything that we can to help you make your dashboards the best they can possibly be. And regardless of whether or not you're a Yellowfin user or not, then these best practices are certainly going to apply to whatever tool that you do use. So that wraps up today's presentation. I'd like to thank you all very much for joining. We know that your time's important, and we really appreciate that get so many people on board these webinars. Once again, really appreciate everyone for giving us your time. And really, we hope that you find these sessions informative and useful, and you can actually put them to practice and get results from them. That's what it's all about. So once again, thank you very, very much, and we hope to see you again at the next one. Bye for now.